Very excited to be joined now in the studio by tech executive and North Dakota governor and GOP presidential contender, Doug Burgum. Great to see you, sir.
Great to be with you, Krystal.
All right,
see you.
Let us know. Why are you running for president? Why do you think you are better than the guy who's the front runner right now, Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, we're running against Joe Biden, and
You got to get there first.
Yeah,
absolutely do. Everybody's got to get there. We're all
Sure.
running the same race. But I'd say we know that we have an opportunity to improve every American life, and we can unleash the best of America, and we can do that by focusing on 180-degree turn on the economy, on energy, and national security.
So, Governor, you qualified for the debate stage this morning. You're this is the first interview that you've given us. We're very excited about it. You did get there in an interesting way. You were offering people $20, I think, for every $1 that they were donating to campaign. Considering your personal wealth, are you trying to buy your debate on the debate stage? Just explain that to people about how exactly that works.
Well, no, that's actually I'm an entrepreneur, and I was actually trying to save money because if you go to an online firm today and say, hey, can you help us build an online program? Nobody knows us. They'll say, sure, we'll put it together an online program, and the cost is about $100 per acquisition for customers. So I said, that's nuts. How would you do that more inexpensively? And if the two of you were launching an online retail business and nobody knew you, you would start out by saying, hey, let's offer a really good product. We'll offer it as a loss leader to get people to come to our site. And if they like what they see, then maybe they'll buy other stuff. And of course, we offer the card to help give people relief from Biden's inflation. Most people that are coming, some don't want the card, some like what they see, and they give a lot more. But again, because of the buzz that it created, that got us a bunch of earned media. So we got free national attention, and we blew through that, and we passed the 40,000. We'll pass 50,000 shortly, and I think it gives a chance for people. So if anybody we still got some cards to give away. If anybody wants to learn more about our campaign, DougBurgum.com. Come check it out.
I understand it as a businessman. I understand the logic behind it, but it does feel a little gross to basically bribe people to give you $1 so that you can get on the stage.
Well, I don't think it's bribing. You think of these goofy rules, these clubhouse rules. If you've held national office, if you've been a pundit on a national cable channel, if you've been in D.C. for decades, all of those things, and you've got national name recognition, it's pretty easy. If you're from a state that's got
some of them aren't having such an easy time.
Yeah, well, but or if you're from a state that's got 20 million people. But I mean, these rules are really stacked against people that have fresh ideas, come from unexpected places like small towns and small states, and good ideas can happen anywhere in America. We know this. I mean, we built a business on taking kids from small towns, and we built a world-class business doing that. So I mean, I feel like this is and to get there in 7 weeks, there's something else going on. Because we had something where we had a group called the Sodbusters. They got together once a week, and these were friends from high school, friends from the college, friends from the first startups I was involved in, and they all said, "Hey, we want to see Doug on the debate stage. Let's talk to everybody on our holiday card list. Let's talk to all of our coworkers." And so those guys had the whole momentum going before this whole thing ends. So there's a lot of ground support coming.
Well, I'm for competition. I'm for a debate, and I think it's great. Do you think that President Trump should show up at the debate now that you're going to be on the stage there?
Well, you guys are pundits, and I think there's a whole industry about what the former president should do, and every candidate's got to run their own.
We want him there. We think everybody should debate.
Yeah, of course every candidate's got to do their own thing. But I mean, we're excited to be on the debate stage, and we're looking forward to talking to Americans about things that affect them, like the economy, like energy and national security.
So implicitly by running, it's not just about Trump, it's about all the other candidates in this race. You jumped in when some of these people were declared. What distinguishes you from the other governors who also tout executive experience? You referenced Governor Ron DeSantis, former Governor Nikki Haley. Why are you the governor to pick over them? Well,
I think the key differentiator here, first of all, governors make great presidents. We know that. But the key differentiator is my long business experience and been successful, but at all levels. I mean, starting out as a kid growing up in a small town in North Dakota, 300 people, and then my dad passed away when I was a freshman in high school, which was tough. He was a World War II Navy vet. Got to see my mom go back to work, widow, 3 kids, making ends meet. And then every job I had growing up, working on the farm, working on the ranch, working at the grain elevator, and then actually working as a chimney sweep to help pay my way through college. I mean, these were all jobs that you take a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day. So I understand what working America is going through when they're facing inflation in this environment. And then I, had an opportunity. I saw an Apple II computer with VisiCalc, the first spreadsheet. I'm like, wow, that's going to change the world. Literally, I took this small amount of farm ground I got from my dad, mortgaged that, which is something you never do when your grandparents have homesteaded and paid for the farm. You don't take debt out on land, but that became the seed capital for Great Plains, and we took that from 10 people to 2,000. We had people working 1,200 in Fargo, 400 rest of North America, 400 rest of the world. We had customers.
Very
100.
impressive. Yeah,
well, but we did that with where people said you couldn't do it. So I mean, it's very, and then.
So let me ask you. I can't help but notice when I asked, how are you different from President Trump? Yep. You kind of pushed that one to the side. Which, listen, you're doing your thing. I understand that it's uncomfortable to criticize him because he's still very popular among the Republican base, even as you want to defeat him. So let me ask you about a specific issue, which is our approach to the Ukraine war. You know, do you think that the way that Biden has approached it is more or less the right approach? President Trump, former President Trump, has said he would get in there and negotiate, end this conflict in 24 hours. Do you think you could do that? Do you think that, you know, how do you view that conflict? And are you more on the side of President Trump's approach, or are you more on the side of Joe Biden's approach?
Well, Krystal, I'll just tell you that we wouldn't even be in this situation if not for Biden's energy policies. Because if we hadn't allowed all of our allies in Western Europe to be completely dependent on Russian energy, then there's no way that Putin says I'm invading the Ukraine. But it is what it is.
We're here now.
We're here now. But again, this is something where when we talk about energy policy, it's one sentence. Sell energy to our friends and allies, stop buying it from our adversaries. And you can't take the Ukraine and separate that from our biggest challenge, which is China. China is the largest importer of oil and gas in the world, 10 million barrels of oil a day. And we've had Secretary Blinken, Janet Yellen, Envoy Kerry, all there. I don't know that any of them talked about energy when they're talking about China. This is the tool that we have.
On the question of Ukraine, though, continue support? Do you support, let me ask you a specific one. Do you support the shipment of cluster bombs to Ukraine?
Yes.
Would you have voted in favor or pushed for all of the aid packages that we have sent? Yes or no?
Well, we need more accountability on the dollars we're sending, but there's no option. We cannot.
And is there an upper limit to the level of support that you would give to them, and how would you pursue peace in the end?
Beating Putin in Europe is cheaper than World War III. It's cheaper than NATO involvement. The most fiscally conservative thing we can do is win and beat Putin. A win for Putin is a win for China. And again, our belated energy policy, we're like, after Biden, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and then kind of green-lighting Putin's invasion by saying, well, hey, if it's an incursion, then maybe we won't do anything. Those are all huge diplomatic signals that say, hey, come on in. Well, now we're in the spot where belatedly we go, hey, we're going to put on sanctions on Russian oil and gas. Well, guess what? They're still selling oil and gas. You put sanctions on a commodity like soybeans or oil in a global market, guess what happens? They sell it to somebody else. Who's buying it? China. I just said China, largest importers.
So would you lift the sanctions on?
Well, it doesn't make any sense. China, our adversary, is getting oil and gas at 20% off. I mean, a farmer in Iowa would like to be paying 20% off their diesel tomorrow, but they're not. So the sanctions, maybe they feel good, but then those they're buying oil from Russia using Chinese yuan. We are undermining the U.S. dollar because for the first time in history, petro transactions are occurring not in the U.S. dollar.
It's an interesting position what we're hearing here. It's about more military, or you want military aid to Ukraine, but not sanctions. So then you also referenced NATO. And
I'm not saying not sanctions. I'm saying
critical of our current sanctions regime. I think that's fair.
Sanctioning a commodity. You sanction U.S. soybeans and then you buy them from Brazil.
Listen, we have no disagreement here, literally whatsoever. A question here, you've referenced World War III, NATO membership. NATO membership for Ukraine, yes or no? What do you think?
Well, it certainly should come as a time because, the whole point of NATO is that everybody's unified in preventing Russian aggression in Eastern Europe, and the only person that's fighting and losing lives right now is Ukraine. They should be getting a medal from NATO as opposed to, hey, we may or may not let you join.
So at their most recent summit, would you have given and extended them membership even though there's an active war zone going on?
Not at this time. I would say, hey.
But you think there should be a pathway for
They're doing the job of NATO. They're doing what NATO was set up to do.
Well, it's a collective defense agreement, not necessarily an aggressive agreement. So let's say that this thing wraps up. There's a peace agreement and all of that. Why should then America's Article 5 protection and nuclear umbrella be extended to, let's say, the Donbas region of Ukraine? Why is that going to nuclear war over for American security?
Well, I think, again, you have to understand, Russia's not a country the way we might think of countries. Everybody understands this is a series of of mob bosses. I mean, call them oligarchs, and then we saw this with Prigozhin, who, it wasn't just that, hey, we've got, mercenary soldiers coming out of Russian jails, fighting in the Ukraine. I mean, there are 65 shell companies under what they're doing in the Wagner Group, and so they're running gold mines in the Central African Republic. I mean, when they were quote helping out in Syria, they took over 25% of Syria's oil production. What's Putin's net worth? 70 billion. I mean,
probably more.
This is just a series of mob bosses all working together. It's not a country the way we think about it. And you're asking like really good questions about how would you negotiate with another country, but these are criminal enterprises that are operating, and sort of somehow the idea that we're going to
yeah, but they're mobs, but they got nukes. I mean, we've had a long time. Listen, I mean, it's not like the Soviet Union was the easiest system to negotiate with. We figured it out. It was actually, frankly, even more barbaric, in many respects, in the ways they treated each other. So, like, you are going to have to negotiate. Xi Jinping, I mean, he's got his people get killed every once in a while or disappear. As president, you would be put in that position regardless of whether you like the system or not. So would you respect, I mean, are you saying that you wouldn't respect them because they're mob bosses? You wouldn't be able to talk to them? Like, what's the diplomatic overture here?
Or is the end goal to push out the regime altogether?
Right. No, I think we have to just focus on the American objectives. Obviously, we need to do that, but we have to be smart about it. We have to have a full range of both military and economic statecraft that we're going. And right now, we're not applying either of those very effectively. And I think again, we're in a Cold War with China today, but it's much more complicated. It's not just about build up our military and then have a strong economy. I mean, Reagan provided a good model of peace through strength, but our economy, the Russian economy in 1989, when they collapsed, was quite small. I mean, it was smaller than some of our U.S. state.
Yes.
And we weren't completely interconnected. Now we have China, the second largest economy in the world, and as the number one economy, ours is completely intertwined. They're completely with each other. And so it's not just, let's, draw a line and then there's a trading bloc that's all with China and a trading bloc that's all with the U.S. and its allies. That doesn't work. I mean, there has to be a path forward for our little planet where everybody prospers better when you've got the ability to talk to each other instead of about each other.
Sure. No one here is going to deny it's an extraordinarily complex and nuanced situation. Just to put a pin on this, and when I get some economic questions, and I know you have a short, about 5 more minutes that you have with us, do you support, would you be pushing for regime change in Russia so that you would have someone that you felt like you could work with more effectively?
I don't think you have to push for it. I mean, we've got economics and we've got actuarial tables on our side. I mean, there will be a regime change, and whether I don't know that this is something. I mean, America doesn't have a great track record on trying to drive regime changes in other countries, but we have to be fully prepared and not know what that regime change is going to be. And that regime change, I mean, we saw that there was an attempt at a regime change with Prigozhin, and that certainly weakened between the different mob bosses, there's certainly different power structure today than there was a month ago.
Sure.
And who knows, maybe it'll happen for us.
All right, so let's do a little bit of economics lightning rounds. My sense from watching you speak, reading your website, is you're kind of a traditional economic conservative. So let me ask you on a number of issues, and Saagar and I can go back and forth here. So on the Social Security program, do you think it should be cut? Do you think it should be left alone, or do you think it should be increased?
North Dakota this year, we were able to successfully, after 30 years of debate, close the defined benefit pension plan for state employees and at the same time protect every employee that's in it. The advances that are coming on genomic medicine, I mean, there's going to be entire disease classes that get eliminated the next 10 or 15 years. I think every actuarial table in America is off.
So just cut, keep it the way it is, or increase. And in terms of cuts, what I'm reading into what you're saying is for people who are in it, they're going to be fine. But what about younger Americans? Well, what would you say to them?
Well, your question suggests that those are only the 3 choices. And I think what we have to do, where we've made a commitment to Americans, we have to protect that. If we've made a commitment, you're in Social Security, we have to protect that. But we also can't bankrupt America At the same time, on the other side, you have to figure out a way to be smart about doing it. And part of that has got to be economic growth, because if we don't have our economy,
so young Americans could potentially see cuts.
Right. So if we've paid into the system, I'm 31. Yeah, I guess I haven't paid into the system that long. I mean, my eye on the chopping block. Like, would under your kind of analysis here, presumably I would benefit from the genomic medicine.
As a 31-year-old,
yeah.
As a 31-year-old, well, you're going to be living to be 100, but
hopefully,
But yeah, I mean, all you youngsters are going to live that long. But I mean, do you expect that you're going to see a paycheck?
I don't know. I mean,
are you
expect
depending on it?
Since the government has made that commitment, the government should fulfill that commitment.
Paid a lot of money in payroll taxes.
I also know what Social Security has meant for old age poverty. I also know that it's one of the most popular social programs in the history of the country. So the American people are certainly on the side of let's figure out how to keep benefits the way they are.
Yes, and if you've got both parties agreeing that you can't touch it, and it's financially and actuarially completely unsound.
Well, you can always lift the cap, and that would very much change the revenue.
Tax.
So you guys are saying we have something that's financially going to drive us off a cliff.
We're trying to get you nailed down on what you think.
Yeah, but you're saying that we shouldn't fix things that are broken. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think what we're advocating, or what we're trying to advocate for, is a vast majority of even Republican seniors. You know, hands off my Medicare was a huge part of the Tea Party movement back in 2010. Same with Social Security. A lot of these seniors, and even people who are 40s, 50s, coming into the system, feel as if that their future is uncertain. So I mean, at that very basic level, like, speak to them, to those people who are like, hey, I'm afraid. Are you going to take my money away? Like, I barely am able to make my mortgage right now with inflation, with freaking home insurance and all this stuff. I've got a fixed income. You know, I think, 50-something% of these seniors relying entirely on Social Security. Just speak to the concern that those people have right now. And also to people like us who are like looking at the system and saying, hey, maybe, you know, let's say you haven't done so well in life, like that's at least one thing that you can rely on whenever you get old.
And I think that's why we say at all costs you have to protect that system for those people, the ones that you're talking about, has to be protected. Social Security, Medicaid, we've got to protect that. But if we have that there, and we still have to, as a country, we have to say, okay, we're protecting that, but does that preclude us from actually having a discussion across the country of saying, how do we do things that actually are financially viable for future generations?
I don't know what that means. So be a little more specific, because I feel like you're not giving us a direct answer. Is part of what you would be looking at for people who aren't in the program yet, reducing the benefits, or would you be looking more toward the side of, okay, how do we bring in more revenue? Because I'll tell you, I think a lot of people look at, all the money that we're spending in the Ukraine war, and it's like, there's always money for the Pentagon, there's always money for the defense industry, there's always money for the Ukraine war, but there's this constant fixation on how do we peel back the pennies that are given to ordinary Americans.
Well, we're spending $2 trillion on complete folly around, forcing an ideology around an energy policy, where we're going to subsidize 500,000 EV charging stations. We're going to subsidize people buying expensive EV cars, and we're going to buy batteries from China, because China controls 85% of all the rare earth minerals in the world, and so we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec.
So are we going to use that money for Social Security?
Well, it certainly would be a better use, because again, we figured out in this nation through markets, how to provide transportation without saying, if you want to have 500,000 EV charging stations and you can't get a permit to build a transmission line, and at the same time we're trying to shut down all the base load in this country, you'd need 5 times the transmission lines to run those things. So the policies that we're literally spending trillions on don't make any sense economically, physics, any of that activity.
Still not talking about Social Security, but what?
Well, we are, but I mean, that would free up. You're saying, where's the dollars?
So you're saying some of those dollars would be
There's all kinds of dollars that would be freed up to fix the thing that really matter, to take care of Americans.
So no cuts to Social Security for young people. Okay. Is that yes?
Well, you could say yes, no cuts for young people as a politician, and then guess what? 40 or 50 years from now, where's the money coming from?
You're running for president. People want to know, what do you think on this issue? What would you do? What would your approach be?
I think I'm honest about the fact that the thing is not actuarially sound.
And so if we have it'd be on the table, effectively.
No, we have to protect everybody that's in the program right now. But then how do you solve a problem when there's not enough money to pay for it? You have to have growth. And part of the way you have growth is you get rid of the red tape. You have innovation, not regulation. You have an energy policy that allows our economy to sprint, not just crawl or fail. And then we stop doing things that are supporting China, like our energy policy is a huge win for China.
Your team's telling us that you have to go. So you've done very well in your life. Do you think that you pay too high, too low, or just about the right in terms of taxes, and for people who have also done very well?
Well, in North Dakota, we're working to eliminate income taxes because you want to have an incentive.
Well, on the federal system. So you're running for president. So how do you think the federal tax regime treats, your people of your net worth and higher? There's a lot of people who, even Republicans, really are concerned about that. I'm just curious. We very rarely get to speak to somebody like you, who's both a high net worth individual and a politician. So how do you look at the current tax regime federally, of which you would be in charge of?
Well, one of the things that I love about one of the few places government does not provide competition. One of the few places it does provide competition is at the state level, where different states can have a state with less regulation and lower taxes. And guess what? It attracts talent and capital to come to those locations. And everybody asks these questions about tax policy like there's not movement of talent. We should be trying to attract all the talent in the world to come to America. This is the land of opportunity. We should be creating a place where capital and talent want to come to our country as opposed to we drive it away. And then everybody assumes, I mean, it's like if you have a bad product and you're in business, you have a bad product and say, hey, we're losing money. What should we do? Let's raise price on our product. Well, then you'd go out of business because people aren't paying your product
So you think
anyway.
we should have lower taxes so more rich people from other countries should move here?
It's not about rich people. It's about
upper middle class,
income,
engineers.
I started out with basically nothing. I mean, part of income mobility up is that's part of the American dream, and this idea that there's a static class, that somehow that's not paying their share. I mean,
that is increasingly the case, though. I mean, if you look at the tax rate,
not paying their share, 128,000 people in California, 128,000
very wealthy pay, as opposed to your average middle class person, the very wealthy, as a percentage of their income, pay far less.
Yeah,
so
and it's a percentage of their income. 1% of Californians pay 50% of their taxes in a high tax rate.
Do you think?
Are they not
do you think that at the federal level? Do you think at the federal level that the tax regime is too hard on the rich? Should it be lowered further so we could attract whoever it is you want to attract to the country? Is that the policy?
You guys with this class warfare thing, rich, poor,
we're just trying to get your taxes policy, dude.
It's like you're not. You're trying to frame it in some kind of ideology about some people aren't paying enough and whatever.
We're just trying to ask you a question because you're running for president and you're not answering the question. That's all we're trying to do.
Well, I think I'm answering the question. I answered the question.
Do you like it the way it is? Would you change it? Do you think it's too hard on the rich, to the top income bracket? If you don't want to call them the rich, just tell us what your tax policy would be.
We don't. All the programs you guys are talking about are paid for with borrowed money. And that borrowed money comes from foreign countries that buy our bonds. And so we need capital to flow to the United States for us to be competitive. And we want to have a regulatory and tax regime where capital flows to our country. That ensures prosperity for everybody.
Taxes.
I think when you've got less regulation, lower taxes, then capital and talent flows in that direction, and that grows the economy. And then guess what? Then everybody has an opportunity to prosper. We're not in a static.
We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. We appreciate the back and forth. Thank you for spending some time with us.
You've been a great sport. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, fun to be with all of you, and happy to keep the dialogue. But
we appreciate
you guys are at least talking about not just in sound bites. We got to talk about real issues.
Yeah, we 100% agree with you.
Politics.
On that.
There's real policy changes where if we make the right policy changes in the executive branch, I'm an operating guy. All I've ever done is I will never be a senator. I'll never be a congressman. I'm not a politician. I know how to run things. I know how to take cost out. 10 to 20% of every job in government today is some soul-sucking, mindless, repetitive thing that brings no value to the person doing it and no value to the citizens. If it's 10 or 20%, that could be 400,000 federal employees. It's not 400,000 individuals. It's 10 to 20% of 2 million jobs that's not adding value. Can we have it? And you'd say, how are we going to pay for Social Security? Well, one way you do for that is you lower the cost of federal government. I believe in states' rights. We need to reduce the size of the federal government by actually following the Constitution. The 10th Amendment says that the states, created the federal government, not the other way around. And the federal government and the president have a narrow job description. It's not like do everything for everybody. That's reserved to the states, or for the people, which is some of these
Governor,
things.
Governor, your team is going to kill us if we don't.
No, but I'm just telling you,
Listen,
there is a path forward to be able to do what you want to do, which is have secure benefits for our seniors and those in needs, and have a prosperous economy. These are not. There is a world of abundance out there, and we can create wealth in this country for everybody. And it happens, particularly with the advancements that are coming in technology. We can do that, but everybody acts like all the questions that everybody asks in all these shows. It's like it's a fixed income, and it's either we got to give it to them or take it away from those guys. That's not the way it works. We have grown our economy, and we'll continue to grow our economy if we understand how economies work.
Well, Governor,
we can lift the boat for everybody.
Congratulations on getting on the debate stage. We're looking forward to hearing you make the case to the American people. I know they're going to find a lot of what you have to say compelling. So thank you for spending
unlike
some time
those shows,
with us
we
today.
will give you the full time to actually lay out your views.
Yeah.
There you go. Congratulations to the internet.
Great.
I guess you played a role a little bit in making sure that shows like this could exist. So we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you both for having me on.
Absolutely.
It's our pleasure. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.